It's the Brad and John Show.
John, and it's B Block. You know what that means?
It's time for Brad's Top 3.
It's time for Brad's Top 3.
It is. And of course, we just can't let the ladies sing it once. They have to sing it twice. Ladies?
It's time for Brad's Top.
And we start off with
It's number 3.
the Boeing strike. The Boeing strike. You just talked about all the money that Eric Schmidt has given. And isn't that interesting that Eric Schmidt, the guy who lives right there in Bridgeton, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I believe part of Boeing is technically in Bridgeton. Maybe not. I'm trying to think. No, maybe not. Maybe not. It's. I know it's in Berkeley and it's in Hazelwood, and I think there's part of it that's unincorporated. But it's really, the strike is really screwing up the production of the aircraft, and at a time when we need that the most, because you know what? You heard the situation with the Russian leader, didn't you, the other day when Trump said he's going to send some Tomahawks over to the Ukrainians?
Yeah, and what happened, Brad?
Well, the former president of Russia essentially said, Mr. Trump should know better because the Tomahawk can either have a regular warhead or a nuclear warhead, and we can't tell the difference. So Mr. Trump had better watch out about sending Tomahawks to the Ukrainians. Get what he's saying? Essentially saying...
Oh, yeah, I get what you're saying.
He's saying that if they do give Tomahawks to the Ukrainians fire the Tomahawks into Russia, they may retaliate with a nuke. And that would sure change things, since we haven't had a nuke used since 1945 when they dropped the second one on, was it Hiroshima was first one, Nagasaki was the second one?
And then Nagasaki,
Right,
yeah.
second
And
one.
also it changed the world because people then learned how to actually say nuclear.
Okay, did I say that one wrong? Give me...
No, you can say it just like you and I both say milk. You say nuclear when it's actually nuclear.
Nuclear. Okay. What's the other one? Farty far. What's the other one we get wrong too?
Potato and potato.
Potato.
Oh, quarter.
Quarter. Milk. Okay.
So quarter water. Yeah.
The Boeing thing is, and if you read this, the stance of the strikers, you know what? I get it. You know, they're trying to, John, they're trying to milk it for all it's worth.
I think they're trying to milk it.
Did I do okay with that?
I think they're trying to milk it.
See, whenever I see these strikes, I literally am the guy who sees both sides. I'm going like, okay, the workers should try to get as much as they can. But the other side of the coin is, the company is, I mean, let's be honest. Boeing's not been doing very well lately. They've had a lot of problems with the 737s and things like that. I read this fascinating article recently about how they had all these 737, the Maxes that were stored at this other place in Washington, this other airport, and wasn't until like a month ago that they finally sent the final 737 Max that had been sitting in, it'd been produced like years ago and it was brand new, but it was sitting at another airport because they ran out of space at the airport it was produced at. And the problem is, you know what the problem with this, John? I know we're going off a little bit.
No, what is it?
The problem is when the planes sit there, it's sort of like what happens to your car. If you put your car in the garage for 5 years and you don't drive it, sometimes you get out there and you put the key in the ignition and the battery's dead, and then you find out that some of the radiator, the transmission fluids leaked out a little bit, some of the oils. And they talked about when the planes are sitting there, it takes them like a month to get them back in the shape where they can fly them again. So it's not like, okay, you can ship that one. No, you got to have them. There's a whole crew that goes through all the engines. They have to do all the inspections. And the other problem with this, and this is a real problem with aircraft, John, and a lot of people may not realize this, rodents and birds. They are horrendous for aircraft that's been sitting because birds build their nests in places like in jet engines and things like that. They clog up the pitot tubes. You know what a pitot tube is, John?
No. Is that a pain in the orifice?
No. The pitot tube, P-I-T-O-T. The pitot tube is this little tube that sticks out the front of an aircraft that's essentially attached to various indicators, airspeed indicators, things like that. And wasps build their nests in there. And there are times when there are documented crashes of people who have parked their little Cessna 152 or 182 or 172, whatever they're flying at an airport, and hadn't been flown for several months, maybe a year. They jump in their plane, they take off, and the engine dies because of the fact that the air cleaner is filled with acorns or something like that from squirrels. So,
oh no,
yes, it's so this is a problem that Boeing still has, and they're still, the crazy thing about it is, they're still not doing well financially. I mean, the stock's doing okay, but the Boeing strike is just sort of screwing everything up. And the other part of it is, I'm sort of surprised at this because when I drive up and down 170, I see them working on the new hangar right there at Airport Road on the south side of Airport, just west of 170. I'm surprised they have not put picket lines up against that so the construction workers can't cross the lines. You know what I'm saying, John?
Yeah, I get it. And also that would be a good spot because you have visibility from the highway and people could be like, what's that protest about? And then look into it.
Right.
I mean, it all will get fixed when Cory Bush is back in Congress.
Yeah, because she's going to defund Boeing. And
Yeah, we could turn it into like a social justice place.
right, the social justice place.
The
Okay,
Michael Brown School of Social Justice.
we ready for number 2?
Let's do it, Brad.
It's time for Brad's number 2. It's time for Brad's number 2.
John's probably read this article, but I found it interesting. The article in stlpr.org about the Post-Dispatch. The Post-Dispatch. And you know what I'm talking about, John? Have you read this article?
If folks go to johncombest.com today, they can find it, yeah.
St. Louis Post-Dispatch owner keeps cutting down its papers. That hurts communities. You know, there's a fascinating thing, and we've talked about this before. You had the Barry Weiss thing. And let's do a quick recap on Barry Weiss. Barry Weiss is a woman who worked at the New York Post. Most people say she's a very good journalist. Wasn't happy with what she viewed at the New York Post about how she could see there was open bias against the Republicans and for the Democrats. And finally, she said, I'm out of here. She was harassed by the other people, and she started her own thing, which turned into the Free Press, which was just bought. I read different things. And one thing, Paramount said they paid $150 million, other $170 million. The interesting part of this is that supposedly the reason that Paramount bought it for 2 reasons. A, they wanted Barry, or Bari. Her name's pronounced 2 different ways. They wanted her, but the Free Press was churning out tremendous amounts of cash flow. People were gladly paying for that. Why is it that the Lee people can't figure out how to make the Post-Dispatch and their other papers valuable enough that people will be willing to pay for it?
I think it's just because I think one piece, it's never just one thing, but I think one piece is the branding of it. And when you think Post-Dispatch, I think the people that are willing to pay for it would be progressives and old people. And I just think there's not enough of them in the St. Louis metro region of either category that's willing to do the Substack model and pay $10 a month to get it. I mean, I think that's the numbers bear that out.
Well, but why is it that Barry Weiss can come along, and maybe because she's got the clean sheet principle, the fact that she started from scratch, she had no perceived bias. There weren't people, that Post-Dispatch, it's full of those commie writers, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so you think that's pretty much the case?
Yeah, and I think of if you came out on either side of a political issue and you said, I hate the right, I'm against the right, we're going to fight the right, or you said the converse, a percentage of people, of hundreds of millions of people, would be willing to give you $10 a month to subscribe to your Substack, and then that's your revenue.
But if the content was to the point where, I mean, it's all about, perceived value. If the content was good enough to the point where you go, man, I got to pay for that. But I think the problem is, I mean, I know you scour the Post-Dispatch. You're the guy that sees all these things. Do you detect, and not on the editorial page, obviously, but in the stories, do you detect much of a left-wing bias in many of the stories?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you would say it's very apparent that they have a left-wing bias.
I think it depends on the topic. So I don't get that when I read a story about municipal government. If I read a piece by Austin Hughley, I don't detect any partisan bias. When I read something from Kurt Erickson in Jeff City, who it is apparent can't stand Mike Kehoe or anybody else with an R behind their name, it's obviously biased.
Now, you subscribed to the Free Press, didn't you?
No.
Okay, you did not, but you've seen a lot of the content they've generated, correct?
Yeah, I've read free stuff from them. Yeah, like I'm not going to give them $10 a month because I don't follow or care about national politics, so I'm not going to chip in $10 to them.
But did you find that of fairly down the middle kind of reporting on the Free Press? Because that's what they're trying to do.
It's hard to say because I think if you're covering COVID cancel culture, then you're probably going to see bias against conservatives, and then I'm going to read that and say, yeah, Barry, you go get them. So you see what I'm saying? Like the bias is as much what topic you're covering. When we poke at St. Louis Public Radio, because every story has to have a handicapped, disabled, transgender in it, if that's the subject that you're writing about, you're probably not going to be very unbiased about it.
There's an interesting story that I started to read last night and didn't finish up about. What's the guy's name? John, what's the dude, one of the late night guys?
Jon Stewart?
No, not Jon Stewart. The guy with the glasses. Anyway, he's doing a hit piece on Barry Weiss. And the article is some reasons to be concerned about CBS's new editor-in-chief. What I find fascinating about this is people are already saying she's right-wing, okay? You know what the thing behind Barry Weiss is? She's getting shot.
Yeah, she's a progressive Democrat.
And not only that, she's Jewish and she's a lesbian. So now the interesting thing is there are other people saying, okay, the fix is in because we know the Jews control everything, and they just put a Jew in control of the CBS News. I'm going like, okay, give it a rest. You know, I mean, like, it's like, can anybody, I mean, would Jesus Christ be able to come down and be able to run any kind of a news operation? People say, oh, he's biased one way or the other. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know, but we're going to go to godsquad.cloud and click on news, and then we're going to see if what people actually are saying about Jesus coming back.
Okay, here we go with number one.
And now, big finish, Brad's number.
I'm not a sports guy, John. And to be quite honest with you, this is how much of a sports guy I am not. If I'm listening to a talk program on one of the stations on 97.1 or whatever, and they start talking sports, I punch the button. I mean, I could care less.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm with you there.
But a human interest story. Remember Mike Schilt, the manager of the Cardinals?
Yeah, and Brad, I didn't click on the story yesterday to figure out why he departed, not Earth, but the Padres role. Did you find out why?
Yes, I did. It was sort of an interesting story. To give you background, Mike Schilt was the manager of the head coach, whatever you call him, of the St. Louis Cardinals, and he was unceremoniously fired without pretty much advance notice. It caught him by surprise, and to the point where I think he got married like 2 weeks before he got fired or something.
Yeah, and the Cardinals, sorry to interrupt, but the Cardinals cited, I think, the phrase they used was philosophical differences.
Right. And he bounced around for a while. He went to work for the national, for Major League Baseball. He did some kind of job. I think it was like a make busy kind of job. They liked him, so they put him in the head office in Major League Baseball. Then he ended up with the San Diego Padres, and for the last 2 years, the Padres have not been a very good team. The last 2 years that he's coached the Padres, they did great. Unfortunately, they lost in, I guess, first, second round of the playoffs?
Yeah, I think they lost the wild card, yeah.
Yes, okay. He resigned Saturday, and the letter essentially said, I find a source that printed the letter, he said that although he enjoys baseball, he loves baseball, the seasons have taken a toll on him physically and mentally, and he can no longer continue to be the manager of the San Diego Padres, and he's resigned. As a matter of fact, the crazy part of it was, after his first year, they gave him an extension on a contract all the way to 2027. So he had 2 more years left in his contract, and I think I remember reading the story that he was like in the top 5 or top 10 of salary-wise is in Major League Baseball. So he was making 7 figures, maybe even 8 figures, and he just walked away from it because, in fact, he's like, I can't do it anymore. Now, he might be the kind of guy, he might be like a John Combest kind of guy, that if he was making the big bucks, if for every dollar he saved 95 cents of it, and he lived off, the 5% or something like that, he may have money socked away. And I think he's like in his mid-50s or something like that. So apparently he's just throwing the towel in, which I sort of find.
I think he's older than mid-50s. I think he's well into his 60s, isn't he?
I don't think so. Hold on, let me
but your point's taken, Brad. Now, Brad, this would seem to confound you because you're such a wild proponent against retirement.
Well, hold on. Let me see if I can pull him up here. Mike Schilt.
I'll look it up.
Here, I know. I got it right here. Wikipedia, Mike Schilt. He was born in... He's 57.
Wow, really? Okay, well, the years sure have taken a toll on him.
Born August 9th, 1968, so he's 57. So, it's one of those things where you don't know it until you've been there. And I would imagine the stress and strain of being a Major League Baseball coach, and not only that, because of the fact that, think about the travel schedule. Think about the fact that essentially for 82 games for let's say 80 games out of the year, he's living out of 80 days out of the year, he's living out of a suitcase. But then he's going down to spring training and he's doing this and doing that. In the off season, he's going
and he's going to the winter meetings in the winter, and he's constantly managing administrative stuff. Yeah,
and he's doing the rubber chicken circuit speaking and things like that. That kind of stuff. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I've never been there before to the point where, although I've been close lately, I'm done with this. I'm going to do something else. But at this point in time, my other gigs haven't materialized, with the other things I'm doing. But I think it's sad because of the fact that I always liked the guy because he was sort of low key, and he was sort of, to me, he was one of those not flashy kind of guys. But, if you talk to people behind the scenes, they said he was very good with the players. He got them motivated. He got the job done. He was, a detail-oriented dude, which you have to be when you're managing all those different personalities and things like that. I think it's sad that he just walks away. I mean,
but the counter argument to that, and you acknowledged that, he's clearly, it seems like he's doing what's best for him. But just think, there's probably a guy 15 years younger than him that has been waiting to be a Major League Baseball player, waiting to be a Major League Baseball manager that will now get his shot. Now, the Padres could hire a veteran manager for sure, but you see what I'm saying? Schultz got his shot with the Cardinals because somebody left. So this could be a great opportunity for a younger guy to come in.
I guess. I think it's sort of sad, though. I mean, he's obviously a good manager because he took a team that I think had not been to the playoffs since like 2004, 2005. So, you think we got problems in St. Louis. Imagine not being in the playoffs
we're
for 20
spoiled.
years.
And as Scott Fawn would say, if you got a guy that's just a good German guy to come in, run it with efficiency, what more do you want?
Right. A red shading sky. But Tony La Russa wasn't German. He was an Italian dude, right?
That's true.
Okay, we have to take a break.